Good evening to the President and Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association, the board and executive members, specially invited guests, and the ladies and gentlemen of our viewing audience. Welcome to another special segment of the Spotlight Endometriosis series, where we discuss all things endometriosis in a very intimate and real way. We have just recently concluded a very successful month of endometriosis awareness and education. Many relationships were forged and much enlightenment was had. So it's only befitting that today we continue on this trailblazing path that was started earlier. Today, our special guest is the founder and president of the TTEA, Mrs. Abeesha Toussaint-Maximay. But before we go into this much anticipated interview, I just want to read a little disclaimer here for all to take heed of. The information shared on this program is for general, informational, and educational purposes only. It does not constitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for individuals. Please consult your healthcare provider if you have any questions about your health or before starting any treatment. So, to get right into our interview, I need to introduce you to our guest speaker, Mrs. Abeesha Toussaint-Maximay is the founder and president of the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association. She became an advocate and visionary when she recognized the needs of endometriosis patients in Trinidad and Tobago in order for them to enjoy a better quality of life. Together with her team at the TTEA, her years of teaching experience, communication specialist skills, and genuine sympathy for the cause, she works with all stakeholders to improve health outcomes for endometriosis patients in Trinidad and Tobago. Since then, she and her team have successfully increased endometriosis awareness and education in Trinidad and Tobago. Abeesha was awarded a master's degree in communication, media, and public relations, in which her research focused on the newspaper's coverage of women's health issues, namely endometriosis, infertility, and dysmenorrhea in Trinidad and Tobago. She has a special interest in endometriosis, health communication, and policy development. Is a member of the World Endometriosis Society, WES, and is serving on the steering committee of the World Endometriosis Organizations, WEO, an affiliate of the World Endometriosis Society. Abeesha is currently reading for a master's in law. She's very passionate about policy and health reform and improving endometriosis care. She remains dedicated to the cause. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our president and founder, Miss Abeesha Toussaint-Maximay. Good afternoon, Mrs. Maximay.
Good afternoon, Madam Hinkson. Thank you for having me this afternoon.
How are you?
I think it's long overdue.
It is. In the words of Irfan Al's song, sometime it's overdue. Good afternoon. I know many people are sitting at their computers waiting for this much anticipated interview this afternoon. So let's get right down into it. Yes, and let's hear all the good stuff that you have to offer. So for us to start, could you tell us, firstly, even though I read your bio, and we want to hear from you just a little more about yourself and what you do.
A little bit about, I didn't hear you, can you add?
Yes, I said, could you, just to break the ice with the viewing audience and everybody involved, And I know I read your bio previously, but could you just tell us a little more about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so, well, thank you again, Karen, and a special good afternoon to everyone. For some reason, I'm seeing myself double on the screen. I have no idea why, but that's how technology operates sometimes. So it's either the technology or us, I'm not too sure. So please excuse us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll keep, so Karen, you will be on the screen and I'll be on the smaller screen. To tell you a little bit about what I do.
I think you should be on the bigger screen. Put me on the smaller screen. I think the people want to see you, Madam Maximay. People want to see you up close and personal for this intimate interview. Nice. There we go. Lovely.
Okay, great. All right. So a little bit about what I do as it pertains to endometriosis. Well, with respect to the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association, basically I oversee the affairs of the organization. This means that we look at developing policies, projects, programs, everything along the lines of endometriosis. We look at spotlighting endometriosis, starting that conversation and expanding that conversation among different stakeholders. And what we would have done, we would have stratified the different stakeholders. So we look at different groups. So there are the nurses, patients, like myself, because I'm an endometriosis patient, for those who are wondering. There are the medical professionals, the health professionals, yeah. The respective health authorities, right. And any other entity that we think should be involved in what we do, or should make some contribution to endometriosis care in Trinidad and Tobago. And ultimately, that's our goal as an organization, to improve endometriosis care in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay. Yeah. All right, nice. But the interview this afternoon is for people to have a more intimate view and an understanding of your journey. As you just mentioned, you're also an endometriosis patient. So yeah, so the interview is for us to, you know, get an insight into how you journey through with it. So one of my my second question was for you to tell us what was your first indication or indications that something may be wrong when it came to your menstrual cycle, body, etc.
Okay, sure. Great question, though. You started and said that you want to focus on my journey with endometriosis. I don't think 1 hour would be sufficient. Trust me.
I know. Definitely not.
1 hour will not be sufficient, because my journey dates back to about 30-something years. If I remember clearly, my cycle came at Christmas. I turned 11 November, and Christmas, my cycle came, and my life was suddenly changed. It was extremely painful. There was this burning, stabbing, ripping, pain. It basically paralyzed me. I could not have done anything for at least 2 days initially. And what was interesting was that my cousin and I, we grew up together, and we started, our cycle started at the same time. And so I had that comparison because she was totally normal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was enjoying life. She was completely normal. It didn't interfere with her life at all, you know, but I was completely different. My life actually came to a halt.
At 11?
At 11. For at least 2 days every single month. Until around 20 years, until I turned 20. Yeah. Then it changed a bit, but I'm going to get to that later on.
Yes.
And at that point in time, I mean, everyone would come to you and they would congratulate you and they would tell you, you know, congratulations, you're a young lady now. And you know the usual sentiments that associated with when you now start to, you know, have your cycle. And I couldn't understand it because it was far removed. It was far removed from beautiful. It was extremely painful, and I just couldn't relate to all the positive sentiments that were being shared. And right away, to me, I felt as though something was wrong because there I was in pain, and there my cousin was, and her experience was totally different.
Right.
You know, and I had to deal with this every single month. And I mean, I was just 11, and it was a lot. It was a lot because at that time, I mean, you're about to enter teenage years. Everyone is telling you that you are a flower now, you know, this should be beautiful. And I started to hear myths like, well, when you get married, it will pass off. And I'm like, what in marriage would make this pain go away? Then I heard, well, when you have a baby, it will go away.
Come on one.
Oh yeah. And then I think the one we are best known for in the Caribbean, because I noticed we have a guest from London. So hi and welcome. So what we are well known for in the Caribbean is drinking bush tea. So drink some bush tea and it will go away, you know, but you know that? So by that I mean drink herbal tea. So I can't even tell you the names of the herbs. I can't tell you how many different herbs was in these concoctions. I really can't tell you that. But yes, I drank a lot of herbal teas, hoping that the pain will go away and hoping that, you know, I could get to experience what everybody else was experiencing, because at that point in time, my life revolved around my cycle.
Yes. Wow.
Everything I do revolved around my cycle. So school assignments, having fun. And we all know during our teenage years, we love to have fun. Going out, every single thing you can think about revolved around my cycle. So to me, my experience was horrible. It was, if I'm being honest at all, it was really, really horrible. Really, really horrible.
And
you know, and at 11, and the thing about it, Karen, is that it's some persons they couldn't relate it. They didn't, like, for example, my mommy, she always had what you would describe as beautiful cycles, or beautiful period. 3 days max, no pain, and life goes on. Normal, no interruptions. But I was quite the opposite. You know, one of the things I remember clearly is that for 2 days I'll be confined to 2 areas. My bedroom, that's one, and the washroom, that's 2. So I always used to be between the toilet and my bedroom. Eating was completely out because I could not have eaten for 2 days. I vomited constantly for 2 days. So all these symptoms were actually there at the very beginning from the very, very, very first cycle. And it just continued. Actually, it got progressively worse. Yeah.
No. Well, 11 years. I mean, I keep emphasizing, I keep repeating 11 because it is so shocking to hear that it is at that early, that young age that it could start. That's primary school, you know. So it's it's quite alarming. But you mentioned that it started at 11. The you know, the identification of differences between your cycle and, well, at that time was your cousin, but I guess you would have gone on to compare it with other people's own. Yeah. And you mentioned that started at 11 and went well into your 20s, right? So my next question is, how long was it before you sought the advice from a doctor on what you were experiencing?
Well, actually, when I started to work actually at 18. So right. Once I started working, most of my salaries went into seeking medical attention. So that was my first priority at that point in time. From 18, yeah. So I would say from 18 years. To be quite honest, I can't recall if mommy would have taken me to a doctor prior. I really can't recall. But to me, I guess it's because it took a lot of my salary. Right. So I would remember it from 18 years onward. Right. Spending most of my time by the doctor, spending most of my time reading, researching, spending most of my time seeking medical attention, trying to understand actually what is happening to me and why it is happening to me. And it took me a while. It took me several doctors, right, to receive an accurate diagnosis. But I shouldn't say an accurate diagnosis for want of a better word, but in my mind, to receive an accurate diagnosis. That's how I would phrase it. Yes, yes. Okay. But prior to receiving that accurate diagnosis in 2000, and it would have been 2009, I would have been diagnosed with hormonal imbalance. I would have been diagnosed with a couple other gynecological conditions. Right. You know, before actually receiving the endometriosis diagnosis. Right, because that was going to be my next question. What was some of the things, because you mentioned that you would have gone to had many doctor visits, right? Yeah. And the next question would have been, what were some of the things that you were told? And you just mentioned some hormonal imbalances and so on. But when you would have gotten, as you said, quote unquote, accurate diagnosis, what actually did the doctor tell you that made you believe that it was indeed accurate? Or what were you told? What were you told in that particular doctor visit? Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of what would have happened before. Yes. So what would have happened around that time was I started to experience this crippling pain in my pelvis area that really prevented me from doing anything. The pain was really, really unbearable. And most of my life, I would have experienced pelvic pain, right? So I would like to believe that I have a pretty high tolerance for pain, but at that point in time, it really incapacitated me. And I went to my GP, and she would have sent me to one of the public hospitals. No names calling. And when I went there, they would have done, the ultrasound, and the doctor would have discussed. He told me they appear to be simple cysts, and he too would have mentioned endometriosis. And then he told me that he doesn't think I have endometriosis. It's not endometriosis. Otherwise, I would have been experiencing such and such and such.
Right.
Okay, so I took that bit of information, but the pain persisted, and it was really crippling, really, really crippling. So and what was concerning at that time is that I wasn't able to keep anything on my stomach for like 6 days.
Right.
So it meant that I had to go back to my GP. And when I went to my GP, she told me, she said, I'm going to send you to a gynecologist and he's going to help you.
Right.
And when I reached by him, he would have done the ultrasound and stuff. And the diagnosis was different. He told me, he said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have endometriosis.
Right.
I'm seeing a huge endometrioma in your right ovary.
Right.
I said, okay. So this is like about a week or two after I came from another doctor, another gynecologist.
Yes.
But sometimes when I sit and I think about it, this story had to go a particular way. And I guess that was the way it had to go.
Right.
It could not have gone any other way. Unfortunately, I had to suffer for about 2 weeks unnecessarily, but that's how it went,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And on being told by this gynecologist that you had endometriosis, have you ever encountered the word or even its definition or so before? Did you do research prior to research what you were feeling? But did you have any interaction with that word before? Because I know many people, when you tell them the word, is like, what? Wait, how are we pronouncing that? What's that? Because everybody thinks all these scientific terms end in cis. So tell me, had you ever encountered the word before, or even had the definition there from prior experience, reading or anything?
Well, to be honest, I really can't say I can't remember, to be quite honest.
Okay.
But what I do remember is being relieved, because I finally felt validated, for want of a better word. Because after I have experienced for this number of years, and it came across as normal, and you are finally told that this is what you have, I felt relieved. It's like 50% of my stress was lifted.
Yeah.
Because most of the time you were wondering, how come so-and-so experiences her cycle and she has a pretty normal life. But I'm experiencing it and I have all these issues. Not only do I have all these issues, but my life practically came to a halt. And by this time, I would have missed 1 week. When I say that, what I mean is, initially when my cycle started off, it would have been 2 days pain. By this time, it would have been at least 1 week of pain. So I was now looking at missing at least 1 week of work each month because it got progressively worse.
And if just tapping into what you're saying there, just to give the audience a view of the timeline. It started at 11, but what age were you when that gynecologist told you that you have endometriosis? That definite.
29. I was 29 years old, so it took me 18 years to receive a diagnosis.
Yeah, and that is what I wanted to, a very long time.
Yeah, it was very long, and by that time, I mean, endometriosis is a very merciless disease. I mean, one of the things we have to remember is that it will affect each patient differently, and there are some patients who are asymptomatic. We know that, right? But for those of us who experience these symptoms, these horrible symptoms, we know that time is our weapon, and the more time elapses without proper diagnosis and proper treatment, is the more challenging it becomes for the doctor to manage and treat later on. And it impacts the patient's quality of life. And I mean, I could attest to that. I can really attest to that, you know?
So upon realizing that, because I know many people, they get a diagnosis from a doctor. Sometimes you want a second opinion, right? To know what transpired there. But whether we're not gonna go into whether you went for a second opinion or not. My question here is, after getting that diagnosis that you have endometriosis, whether or not you proceeded to get another diagnosis, another opinion, sorry. Tell us, what was your next step after hearing I have endometriosis? So then what did you do? What happened from there on? You said you felt relieved. So there was relief. But how did that propel you forward into, at that point, trying to, because now it's a disease, which is something that we're not supposed to have, you know, by nature standard. So how did you proceed to try to combat the presence of
endometriosis? So for me, it would have been several surgeries. So there was actually no need for me to seek a second opinion, because after it was detected in the ultrasound, I had surgery not too long after. Yeah. And I remember the surgeon telling me there was very little we could have done for you because your case is very, very, very advanced. You know, I went through a series of GnRHA analog. I went through the progestin, so the hormonal approach. Yeah. So we tried the hormonal approach.
Right.
It didn't do much. It didn't do anything for me at all. I tried herbal as well.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything for me at all. I continued with the bush tea.
Right.
It didn't do anything for me at all, but at least I felt as though I had to try. You know, I really had to try and to continue trying, because that's all I could have done in my capacity as a patient. And I started to research, and I started to research extensively. And then I would have encountered in the literature, you know, some of the issues associated with endometriosis care,
Right.
which is not specific or relative to Trinidad and Tobago, because they are universal issues.
Right. Okay.
Right. Started to pay close attention and follow what other organizations and other societies were doing. Started to pay close attention to doctors who dedicated their practice to endometriosis.
Right.
You know, but it was still in a very how should I say it, in a very remote manner. In that they are in one location, geographical location, and you are how many miles away?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have all this information, but yet you're still experiencing what you are experiencing. You know, so all I could have done at that point in time, continue to go to the doctors, try to educate myself, do as much research as possible, and try to motivate myself, because during those times I was very depressed. I had depressions quite often, but by that time I would have learned how to manage it.
Yes. Coping
strategies. Yeah. So by that time I would know, okay, this feels like a depression coming on, so this is what I need to do, because it works for me.
Yes.
Yeah. I think at that point in time as well, I was learning how to develop an appreciation for my body, or how, okay, so let me state it a different way. What I didn't mention during my teenage years was that I really, because of my experiences, two things happened to me. I really hated life. That was one. And I really hated my body. I couldn't identify with it at all.
Right.
And so one person comes up to me and they said, Abeesha, you're so pretty. I'm like, and I tried to identify with it, and I tried to smile. Because I don't see what they're seeing. I'm seeing something completely different. because I was feeling at a point in time, I was stuck in a body, and this body just wasn't working for me at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I felt as though the majority of the blame was on the body I was given.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, so later on, during, let's say, my late 20s and early 30s, by that time I would have dealt with most of my issues along those lines. And so I started to develop an appreciation for my body. And to me, it was worth trying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had to continue trying to help myself, because I had a reappreciation for my body.
Yeah.
And for life.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's what we are entering into now is that whole mental health factor, mental health issue. And you actually just led me right into my next question, because one of the areas that were emphasized during the recently held webinars, and also the overarching theme of Spotlight Endometriosis, is mental health. So you explained, you just gave some, examples, but could you tell us some, I know you just mentioned two, but some other mental health issues that you had to battle with during the journey, and what did you do? How were you able to reach to the point that you are today, sitting there, so resilient, leading an organization on the disease, looking so radiant? Because I know many people who are looking on and probably would look at this clip after would want to know, what did you do? Because some people, as you're saying, at one point, you didn't see your worth. You didn't see it. So, and I think that is one of the main issues, that besides the biggest one, which is having that physical, those physical interruptions. To me, I think the second issue would be how we deal with our hair in order to continue to deal with the physical. So, just tell us, what are some of the other mental health issues you had and how you coped with it?
Okay, so my two major mental health issues, as I mentioned before, would have been me hating life and not wanting to live. And I'll be very frank for those who are listening. At some point in time, probably at some point during my teenage years to, let's say, early 20s, I was praying for death, honestly, because to me, that was a solution, living a painful life, being so distressed, being so much in pain, being so depressed all the time. Everyone is looking at you as though you're always a sick one. You're always a sick person. Everyone is looking at you as though you are the one who always don't show up for an event. You don't show up for, for your friend, that sort of thing. It's difficult, and it plays on your psyche. It really does. And so for a long time, I'll be honest, I was praying for that.
Right.
And I guess one of the things that actually worked for me, two things actually that worked for me, was I always like doing good, as crazy and as simple as it sounds. And I get a certain joy from doing good or seeing someone else doing something good for another person.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was always some joy, some sort of satisfaction in that really worked for me. Another thing that really worked for me would have been listening to persons who persevered. They would have had some sort of struggle.
Yeah.
It may not necessarily be endometriosis, but they would have had some sort of struggle. And when you listen, and I think to me, that was my greatest inspiration and what really inspired me back then to, you know, to change my perspective, you know. When you listen to them and to their stories and how they overcome, then I started to tell myself, well, if they can do it, and this is what they experience, well then at least the least I can do for myself is try. And so I started trying. And the third most important factor, I would say, is my relationship with God. I mean, going to church for some people would have been routine, the Christian thing to do. Yes, it's a Christian thing to do, and I am with that 100%. But for me, as a patient, going to church was a place of solace. So when I go to church and I hear the word, there was something in that word that used to empower me to continue, you know. And the fourth thing I would say would be the persons around me, like my friends and my relatives, and how they would rally around me and how they would actually do almost anything for me because of my struggles. And when I see that, because they were making that kind of sacrifice, then I said, Bish, you need to do something for yourself. You need to stop feeling sorry for yourself. And I can't tell you exactly when I stopped feeling sorry for myself.
It just
but
happened.
It happened. It happened. And I had a whole new perspective.
Beautiful.
I felt motivated. That doesn't mean to say that I don't have occasions when I feel depressed. I do feel depressed from time to time.
Yeah.
I still like being in a dark room by myself. I don't know how healthy that is. I do, but at least I have a greater appreciation. I have a greater awareness, and I have a new perspective. And that is what is important.
Good story, girl. Good story, girl. So then, what was your driving force behind starting the TTEA? You know we're gonna go there.
Yes, I know we're gonna go there.
What's the driving force to starting the TTEA?
My driving force would have been my personal experience with the disease. I know it may sound cliche, but I guess when we get into a little bit of my medical history, my experiences with the disease, one will understand why my experience led me to starting the foundation. And you know, the interesting part was I hate the spotlight. I'm going to be quite honest. I hate the spotlight. And so when I thought about it, I went around to different persons who I think would have brought something to the TTEA, advance our mandate in some way or the other.
Yeah.
And I actually had persons in mind to be president and vice president and, you know, that sort of thing. And each person I went to, they turned and they told me, they said, we are only going to get involved if you are leading it. And I'm like, what? And they said, yes, if you are leading it, then we are going to get involved.
Yeah.
And so I was forced to be
to take in the spotlight.
in the spotlight.
Yes.
To be in the spotlight. To lead this wonderful organization that is doing really excellent work, in my opinion. Maybe that might be a bit biased.
Well, you know.
Yes, but I think we are doing excellent work.
Yeah.
And it's about, for most persons, it's about awareness, it's about information, it's about education. But for us at the TTEA, it's all that. But what we want is results. And this is the results we want to see. Improvement in endometriosis care in Trinidad and Tobago. So that when I speak to a fellow patient, that patient would tell me, well, you know, I was so and so. I was at 10 being the worst.
Yeah.
But after I received care in TNT, I am now at 5.
Yes.
So this is my best life.
Yes.
And I'm really appreciative of that. You know, and this is what we want. Our aim is to improve endometriosis care in Trinidad and Tobago so that patients can enjoy a better quality of life. And that will require a multifaceted approach. As I said before, that will require us at the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association working with all stakeholders.
Yeah.
You know, and I have to put in a plug here for my team at the TTEA. They are really, really, really amazing. The board, the executive members, the members of the Endometriosis Special Interest Group, our patron, our honorary member, even all, I'm going to bring in all our sponsors,
yes,
all our friends, all members. Yes, but you see that TTEA team, that I mean, work assiduously, relentlessly, tirelessly to improve endometriosis care, to put endometriosis out there. I can't commend them enough. I can't applaud you, Karen. I can't applaud Brigid. I can't applaud all the other members enough, because I know, well, we know, I should say, some of the dynamics that take place behind the scene. You know, sometimes a member is not feeling well. We are dealing with endometriosis patients for the most part. They're not feeling well. Yes. And you actually have to, you know, grind that pain, as we like to say in Trinidad and Tobago. Suck it up, do what you have to do. And after you do what you have to do, then it's you, your bed, and your bedroom, and you're there in pain.
And we have definitely seen so many of the members of the team who would have really grind that pain to continue to put off a good session, to put off a good seminar, you know. So yeah, you have a good team. You do.
Yes, I do.
You actually.
Yes, I'm really proud. I'm really proud. I'm really, really proud. It's very diverse, very skilled, very resourceful, and I like to think very influential.
Yes.
And impactful. Yeah.
Well, you more or less. Sorry, continue. Go ahead. Sorry.
Actually, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, what I was going to say was that you actually more or less answered my next question, because my next question was going to be, where do you see the TTEA in the next 5 years and what you hope for it to be doing? And you would have answered that there. You know?
But I can still expound on that.
Yes, okay, please.
So definitely, so coming out of March month, which I think was our best month, with our best awareness session to date.
Yes.
We finally got some buy-in from different stakeholders.
Yeah.
That would have taken us 9 years, because next year TTEA will be celebrating 10 years.
Yes, correct.
Right? And so we need to expand in certain areas, and we need to start doing work in some areas. For example, in the area of research, we definitely we need to start doing some work in that area, because I believe if we at the endometriosis organization, then persons, professionals, as well as organizations should be coming to us for information on endometriosis. We shouldn't have to be going to anybody.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is definitely one area we are going to focus on. Then there's the area of support. And that's another area that we are going to expand. And I know, Karen, this is one of your area. This is one of your.
Yes, you're shaking my head. I'm shaking my head. I'm shaking my head. Yes, definitely.
You have always made the recommendation to offer financial assistance to endometriosis patients. You know, and those are areas we intend to explore.
Yeah.
We definitely intend to explore. Yeah. So coming out of Awareness Month, we also looking at greater collaboration with stakeholders.
Right.
So we're looking at probably developing programs, because programs with health professionals, medical professionals, right? So our role really as an organization is to be that agent of change and to facilitate the process. Now, we cannot go and educate medical professionals or health professionals on endometriosis.
Yes.
Right? But we could facilitate the process.
Yes.
And that is exactly what we intend to do as an organization. As a matter of fact, some talks would have started during last month. Yeah, so we will work to developing those, and hopefully next year for our 10th year celebration, we will be able to launch some new programs and some new projects, involving the various stakeholders. But one of our immediate need would be finding a home for the TTEA.
Yes.
You know, so we definitely need a space. So if there's anyone who's listening, and you know of anyone who has a building, and they're looking to leave it to someone, tell them about the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association. Tell them about the wonderful work we have been doing, and tell them that in order for we to expand on what we are doing, we need to have an office. We need to have a home. So we are in the process of looking for a home. Yeah?
Very, very good. Excellent aspirations. And we really hope that they can become realized. Not in the distant, but in the near future. Not in the distant, but in the near.
So, you know? So the point of TTEA finding a home, that's immediate future.
Definitely. And I want to, before I go to my last question to you, I just want to remind the viewing audience that you can put your question, because after the last question, we are going into a short break and then returning to field your questions. So we are asking you if you have any questions that you would want to put to Mrs. Maximay, that you can put it in the question and answer box. All right. So to close off, Abeesha, I want to ask, what are some words of wisdom? You know, all these interviews, and I find I've fallen into the cliche here, because I'm supposed to be a different type of interviewer. But anyhow, what are some of the words of wisdom that you would like to share with women and girls who are or may become endometriosis patients?
Yes, Madam PRO, you're doing an excellent job.
Oh, God. Thank you.
But women and girls, what I would say is, we need to pay attention to our girls, our teenagers. We need to pay close attention, and we definitely need to listen to them.
Yeah.
And we need to understand the role of an organization like the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association, because our role is very different to that of a medical professional or a medical practitioner. And to teenagers, I would definitely say, if you seek help, and you continue to seek help until you get the kind of intervention or attention that you need. You know, your mental well-being is also extremely important. And so speaking to someone is also very critical.
Yes.
You speak with someone. What is critical, and what was critical for me, is surrounding yourself with persons with the right qualities. You need to have positive persons around you. You need to have persons who will understand you. You need to have persons who would love you in spite of what you are experiencing. Those are the persons you need to have around you. Yeah? So women who may suspect they have endometriosis, continue to advocate for yourself. Continue to advocate for yourself. You continue to seek medical attention until you receive some sort of satisfaction. That doesn't mean to be disrespectful to our medical professionals, because we cannot do what they do. Yeah, and we have to respect them and love them for that. But like you said, Karen, if for some reason you visit one health professional and you're not satisfied, you try someone else.
Yeah.
And this is where the association will come into play. You may not necessarily have to contact the executive or the office or the board, but just speaking to someone from the association, attending an event. It helps you. It helps you to put things into perspective. It helps you to feel better about yourself. It helps knowing that you are not alone. Yeah. And I think a huge part of our experiences as endometriosis patients is accepting who we are and working with what we are given.
Yes.
Because we definitely have no control as to whether we get endometriosis or not. Yeah.
Definitely.
And talk to someone, and always pay attention to your mental health and your mental well-being, because that's critical. That's really, really critical. And you know, in the Caribbean, persons in the Caribbean tend to not to see mental health issues as a serious issue. But it is, yeah, but it is extremely important. Extremely important. Yeah. So that's what I would say. Surround yourself with the right set of persons, so that you would have that positive energy around you at all times, because you need to be motivated. You accept yourself for who you are, but that doesn't mean to say you accept living a life of pain. You continue to advocate for yourself, and you continue to seek the best possible medical attention that is available. Yeah. And I think that's it.
And one of the things that would have stuck with me from the webinars that we just concluded was that endometriosis is a multidisciplinary approach to treating endometriosis. And, you know, a patient has to be very much aware of all the areas in which they could receive relief, you know, not just that physical part, but there's so many other things that they can look into. So, yeah. So,
yeah, you're quite right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that stood out for me. It stood out for me a whole lot, because you have been looking at, you know, all these seminars going by, and these webinars, as you were saying, very, 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 very successful and informative ones this year. And just hearing that this year made me understand how I was viewing it before. When they said the multidisciplinary approach, I was like, yes, that's it. Because there's so many different facets, so many things that have to come together as one to just treat this one patient, you know? So yeah, that was very good. So Abeesha, thank you so very much. It is 8:07.
Oh my gosh.
You know, we like the African great parrot, you know, we like to talk, you know. But we want to thank you. I am sure the audience would also like to thank you for placing yourself in the spotlight this afternoon. And I know that you're a very reserved and private person. So to take on this spotlighted post this evening, I know behind them I'm saying, oh God, you know, but it was very greatly appreciated for you to do what you did this afternoon, and we hope that it would have impacted somebody, even if it's one person. Then we would have done what we set out to do, you know. So thank you so very much, Madam President. And big things are going on for the TTEA, big things, you know. So so we're going to take a short break. Supposed to be 2 minutes, but because it's 8:08, we are going to take a short 1 minute break, and we'll be back with your questions for Mrs. Maximay. See you in a minute. Okay, so that probably was less than a minute, I'm not sure. But welcome back everyone. We are about to enter our question and answer segment. I would have prompted you to place your questions for the president in the question and answer box. And I know some of you have started to do that. And before we go into that, I just also wanted to tell you that there is a feedback survey link that would have been placed in the chat. And we are asking those of you who are here with us tonight, can you kindly fill it out before exiting the session this afternoon? All right. That will help us, improve Spotlight and other events. So to take over with the question and answer segment, we have Miss Brigid Winter, another member of the board of the TTEA. So I'm just going to tell you who Miss Winter is. Ms. Brigid Winter is an information professional. Oh Lord, I'm going to say specialist, Brigid. Ms. Brigid Winter is an information professional with a love for books, learning, traveling, and the creative arts. On her journey to librarianship, she worked as an ESL instructor and a life insurance underwriter. She holds a bachelor's in business administration and a master's in library and information studies. Ms. Winter is an endo warrior who hopes to see the day when a diagnosis for endometriosis does not engender despair, but rather hope and the knowledge that help exists and everything will be okay. She's ever guided by the words, "To whom much is given, much will be required," which is taken from Luke 12:48. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Miss Brigid Winter, who is going to be your moderator for the question and answer segment. Good afternoon, Brigid.
Good evening, Karen. Thank you so much for your introduction and welcome everyone. I am just going to give the quick disclaimer and then I'm going to jump right in because I know time is of the essence. So just a reminder that all the information that is shared here this evening is for general informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult your healthcare provider if you have questions about your health or before starting any treatment. So I'm just going to jump right in. And I am going to go directly to our participant from London because I know it's after midnight where she is. So we really want to thank you for joining us and we are going to go straight to your question. She just wanted to say hello again and to thank Abeesha for sharing her story. It is refreshing to hear another Black woman's story. I have been diagnosed with endo. I was diagnosed with endo 21 years ago and recently had a hysterectomy a few weeks ago. And she's saying that it is really hard and encouraging us to keep going with our awareness as it makes a difference. Her question is, how would you advise other women to get the awareness about endo out and feel confident to talk about it with others? How would you advise other women to get awareness about endo out there and to feel confident to talk about endo with others?
Hi,
Right,
Brigid.
here's Abeesha. Hi.
Hi. So thank you so much to our participant from London and thank you so much for joining us. Brigid, can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
That's fine. How would you advise other women to get awareness about endo out there and feel confident to talk about it with others?
Okay, so there are two parts to that question. So I'll take the last part first. Feeling confident, talking about it with others. I think that has a lot to do with you, the individual, and your style and where you are at. As I said earlier in my earlier in the Q&A with Karen, that at one point in time, I could not have seen myself doing this at all because I just was not comfortable with who I was. I wasn't comfortable with the body I was in, you know, and so doing anything like this was far removed from my mind. But with a change in perspective, you know, and being surrounded with positive persons, it made a big difference. It made a big difference. So it has a lot to do with who you are, where you are at in terms of that mental maturity, for want of a better word, and how much do you feel comfortable putting out there, you know? And I think you should examine those areas and look for the indicators, because the indicators will be there as to where you should start. Because what will work for me definitely may not work for you, or it may not work for Brigid, you know? So you have to sit and think, okay, this is where I am at. This is where I am in terms of my mental health. And this is my style. For me, I like writing. I love writing. I love writing. Actually, I'm working on a piece, an endo piece. I'm hoping to publish, to post, if not next, well, definitely this month is out. So we're looking at hopefully next month. And it will be on who or what to believe, the endometriosis patient dilemma. Because of all the information that is out there, how do you go about, you know, sifting through that information? So for me, writing, I'm much comfortable with writing. But in this day of social media and technology and TikTok and everything that should be fit into 1 minute, you know, I had to adjust gradually. Still, you find that you may not see me to the front, you will not see me in videos and stuff, simply because number one, there are other competent persons to do it, and it will be aligned with their position description, right? And I think persons should be, you know, should be credited with what they do. Person should see, you know, the person who is doing this. And the second thing is, for me, I function best being incognito, being invisible, and being away from the spotlight. So you have to sit and think, you know, what works for you and what may make you feel comfortable. Sometimes it's just, you know, listening to someone and you are hearing all the red flags of endometriosis. And it's as simple as probably giving them a flyer or giving them or providing the website information, or just mentioning the word, you know, endometriosis, or because sometimes you don't want to scare anybody too much, or you just mention to the person, you know, have you considered visiting a doctor? And that can be a starting point, and you can do it on an individual level. In terms of, Brigid, I'm sorry, what's the first part of your question?
How would you go about advising other women to get awareness of endometriosis out there to the larger population?
Well, what I've realized, most endo advocates are doing, they are really using social media. So if you are a social media person, I mean, that's one avenue, yeah. But what you can do also is that you can form partnerships with other entities, other organizations. You can piggyback with other entities, other organizations. You know, once your vision and missions align, piggyback with them, and I think perhaps that's a starting point. You know.
Okay. So thank you, Abeesha. We are looking forward to reading your article. And I have to say that you're not really doing a good job at the incognito, but work on it. But we are happy for that. I also want to add, if I may, that, you know, sometimes the feeling is that this is only happening to me. But once you start sharing, you realize that other people out there are experiencing, you know, the same symptoms, or they have the same problem. So it's just sometimes just getting started, just reaching out to one person. So I guess all of us would have been there at some point, you know. I am different. I have this weird thing that nobody else has. So sometimes it's just starting with one person, and your confidence begins to grow little by little. So just carrying on from there, this question is a little similar, but specific to Trinidad and Tobago. Someone is asking, how can someone with endo advocate for themselves in Trinidad when it seems as though endo is still very much on the back burner with doctors, especially how they choose to treat it?
Okay. Well, the thing about it is that that problem is not relative to Trinidad and Tobago. I think that's a universal problem. So that's the first thing the person ought to know. That's a universal problem. But I think bit by bit, you chip away. And eventually you will make an impact. You know, so like for example, when we started off the Trinidad and Tobago Endometriosis Association in 2012, where we were in 2012 is completely different to where we are now. Absolutely. We have made great strides now. And in comparison to where we want to be, I mean, we still have a lot to do. So what I can tell that person is to don't be daunted. You do what you can do. You do small bits. You craft your plan. You test your plan. And then you execute your plan. Yeah, but you don't give up. Because the moment you give up and you don't do nothing, then nothing is going to happen.
Right.
But if you continue to do something and you continue to contribute, and we all contribute, then there will be a choir and we will be stronger. And the idea is that we will be more impactful. Yeah?
Yes.
So don't be daunted. Maybe I think for that person is measuring based on her expectation. Okay. So this is what they're expecting. You know, but if you look at it, I'm certain that you would have made some progress. You know, probably it's not the progress that you would have liked to make, but there definitely would have been some progress. Yeah, but don't give up.
Yes.
Continue working at it.
And you are right. So for this year, although I'm glad, it was very difficult to attend all the different endometriosis sessions. Even just within the Caribbean, there were so many. That is not something that was happening before. So things are happening. Things are happening. Yeah.
Exactly. And I could add to that, Brigid, because I remember when we were starting the TTEA back in 2012, we would have written different organizations around the world, you know, for seeking assistance. And assistance was not readily given as it is readily given now.
Right.
So there is some change. there is some progress, which is good. So next 5 years, 10 years, I guess where we are now will be, where we'll be then will be different to where we are now, you know?
Definitely.
But the problem is we still will not be where we would like to be.
Right.
I think that's the problem.
But as long as we are making progress, I think
Yes.
that's important.
Yeah,
That's the most important.
definitely.
Okay, so let's move on. Do you think in the near future, the TTEA would be partnered with endo specialists that patients can be referred to so persons can potentially be treated sooner?
Okay, to answer that question, partnering with endo specialists. Now, the TTEA has plans in the pipeline to work with medical professionals, right? To bring about some improvement, to bring about improvement in endometriosis care, right? Coming out of the seminars, doctors would have expressed an interest to develop a multidisciplinary team and so forth in Trinidad and Tobago. Our aim as an organization really is to facilitate educational or exposure, for want of a better word, for our medical professionals, right? So that they will be aware, become more aware of best practice, yeah, with endometriosis. What is the best practice for endometriosis, right? And so that they can develop an interest, a special interest in endometriosis, because I think sometimes that's a problem, developing that interest. They will be abreast of current research. Now, our role is to facilitate that process. Now, I don't know, I can't say if the TTEA will be partnering with health professionals locally or internationally. I definitely can't say that. If we are considering any kind of partnership, it will be, let's say, partnering with an organization abroad so that we can have collaboration with our local doctors, right? If we are having partnership for along the lines of patients and supporting patients, it may be how we can support patients who are desirous of seeking medical attention abroad. How we can support, be it financially or otherwise, yeah? But to say to develop a partnership with endometriosis specialists so that patients, for patients with surgery, not necessarily along those lines, but I think the end results will be the same. It's just that the process will be different.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, so following along those lines as well, and this is a question that comes up every session, does the TTEA have any doctors or professionals that they can or would refer patients to who may need someone to talk to help with mental health coping with endo?
Okay, great. Well, I'm happy to say that prior to Spotlight Endometriosis, I would have said no prior to Spotlight Endometriosis. But because Spotlight Endometriosis focus for this year, year one, is endometriosis and mental health. And one of our very own board members, Lisa Dupi. Lisa, are you hearing me? Who's currently, yeah, kudos to Lisa, who is currently mastering in counseling. She would have brought on a host of mental health experts that we are hoping to form some sort of collaboration with, work out some sort of arrangement with, yeah, later on. Yeah, so perhaps that is something patients can look forward to in the near future. But we definitely will have to work out the details. That's something we definitely will have to work out. We're still preparing reports. We're still trying to recover from last month, because last month was really exhausting, really exhausting. Yeah. So soon as we are recovered, we start working on those projects. Yeah. So we have patients in mind. Everything we do, the patients are in mind.
Yes, exactly. If I could just stick in here for those persons who are registered members of the TTEA, we have a support group, and that is a good start. Sometimes just talking about it, you know, you get good advice, things that you can try, or just having someone listen to you is very helpful. So whoever asked the question, if you are not a registered member, please register with the TTEA so we can add you to the group. Yes, it's free.
And it's
registration
very free.
Is free.
In addition to what you said, Brigid, quarterly membership meetings. And yeah, and at those meetings, we tend to bring in resource persons, right?
Yes.
And it's completely free to membership. So we once you are a registered member, we are asking, we are pleading with you to come out to these meetings. You know, sometimes it may just be internal, but that's where peer counseling comes into play.
Yes.
You know, that's where peer counseling comes into play. So come out. You know, there should be one that will be carded soon. The notice will go out. So if you haven't liked our page or doesn't follow us on social media, please follow us on social media, because we tend to post most of the stuff there, unless we think it's something for members only. Yeah, but in a case like that, membership notice, membership meeting notice, we post it on our social media platforms, definitely. So come out, because while it may be free to the members, it's not necessarily free to the TTEA. It means we would have to make some sort of arrangement, some sort of contribution, you know, to have this person there. So come out to these events.
Come out and support and get the support that you need. And
that's right.
Invite your family and your friends, because sometimes when they come in as well, they understand things differently when they realize that other people are experiencing what you are experiencing.
Exactly.
So that's an excellent place to start. So if you are not registered, for anyone who is here this evening, if you are not registered, and you don't have to have endometriosis to be registered, you can be a family member, a friend, or someone who just has interest, you know, so feel free to register. All right, and this person is asking 3 questions. So I'm going to start with the first one. Yes. She has said that, Abeesha, you said that most of your salaries went into seeking health care. What advice would you give to a patient who does not have the financial stability to seek the necessary care needed? Because we know endometriosis treatments are not cheap, not by a long shot.
It's not cheap. Thank you for giving me that hard question, Brigid. That's a hard one. I don't know if I can provide advice per se, because I really don't know the person's circumstances. And for me to give any kind of advice along financial lines, it means that I would have to have an idea of the person's circumstances, what the person may have access to, and that sort of thing, right?
Mm.
But what I can definitely say is what we intend to do. Like during the Q&A with Karen, we were talking about looking at offering financial assistance to patients. Yeah, I mean, that's a sore point for Karen. Karen, she would always bring that up every often. She said we need to be in a position where we offer some sort of financial assistance to endometriosis patients. Now, that's not an easy process. It's a very difficult one, because you're looking at finding resources, additional resources, right? And sustaining those resources over a period of time. So you're looking at also the issue of sustainability.
Right.
But it is very necessary. It is very necessary, right? So that's one of the areas we will be paying close attention to, and hopefully we should be able to bring on a project of that nature, or a program rather of that nature very soon. Yeah. The other thing the organization intends to do is to see how best we can work with and build a case for endometriosis patients generally. Yeah. I believe, is it the Ministry of Social Welfare? Is it the, Brigid, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Maybe social
the Ministry of
development?
Social, who is responsible for social welfare?
I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm not quite sure.
Okay, but sorry, that's okay. But the ministry that is responsible for social welfare and for helping persons along that line. Our role as an organization will be to build a case for endometriosis patients with that pertinent ministry, right? To see if we can have endometriosis patients added to whatever list that might be, so that they can receive some kind of assistance from the government as well. Correct. But that's a long-term project, and there will be many phases to that project as well. Because once you, let's say you receive benefits, right? Let's call it benefits. Hypothetically speaking, you will be receiving benefits from the government, right? Like I know in some countries, it is referred to as disability allowance or something like that. Yeah. We will need to have a series of consultations as to what it is endometriosis patients really want and what we are hoping to achieve, as well as what will be in the best interest of the endometriosis patient. Because if you are classified as disabled, then there can be some ramifications associated with that. Huh?
Correct, so some negative ones too.
That's right. So it's something that will require research, consultation, and everything else along that line over a period of time. But hopefully we can start the conversation soon.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We have one of our guests this evening saying that the name of the ministry is Social Development and Family Services. So we thank Ms. Natalie,
so thank you so much.
Millington Walters. Right. But one thing for us all to remember is that for these things to happen, we have to support. So it's not just putting it out there and expecting it to run. We have to mobilize people. We have to do the work. We have to make our voices heard and get people on board. So I hope that's the plan of all of us, you know.
To add to what you said, Brigid, there's strength
Sure.
in numbers. You know, so when we are building a case, there's strength in numbers. So if TTEA says, well, okay, there are approximately 35,000 persons affected in Trinidad and Tobago by endometriosis, 20,000 of that 35,000, you have that's a compelling case.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very compelling case. But when you only have like under 500, that's not very compelling at all.
Right.
So as patients, you have responsibilities too, you know?
All right. So our guest, she's sharing some further information about the ministry, and from what she's sharing, we may need to go to a different ministry, but we definitely have to do some research. But we are working at seeing how best we can help endo patients in Trinidad and Tobago. I think along the lines of something, is it Switzerland who recently they were giving period leave or something to that effect?
I think it's one of those, I think about 2 European countries.
Right.
About 2 European countries. But again, Brigid, that's for persons who are employed. The issue here is for persons
It's
who don't have
everyone
that
who has,
financial.
right,
Yeah.
right. Okay. So we definitely need to do some research before we go down that road. So the last 2 questions we have, again, this is from the same person. And Abeesha, you spoke about this already, so maybe just, you know, expound a little bit. She wants to know, I'm going to ask both questions one time. How did you overcome your depression? 1, and what advice would you give to a young endo patient who is feeling disconnected or dislikes her body due to the disease? And I know that you touched on that before.
Brigid, can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
1, how did you overcome your depression? Have you overcome your depression?
For the most part, I would say yes, because I have a totally different perspective.
Excellent.
I have a totally different deportment and demeanor, you know. I actually like myself, which is good, you know, which is good. So yeah, I would say that I overcame my depression, but that doesn't mean to say from time to time I don't have some episodes. Mm-hmm. But for me, I am conscious of it, and I address it in ways that works for me. So I would start off by saying that everybody's different, and what will work for me definitely will not work for you, right? So you really have to figure out what works for you. You know, what you like, what you don't like, that sort of thing. One of the things I found that was extremely important for me was surrounding yourself with the right persons. You need that positive energy around you. You don't need somebody telling you that you are less than. You don't need to hear someone telling you that you are always sick. You don't need someone telling you that you can't make a contribution, or you can't make this, or you're always sick, or you know, something like that. You just need to have positive energy around you. And so you need to have a right set of persons around you, so that when you are having that down moment, when you are feeling depressed, at least that positive energy around you can serve as a motivation, can motivate you, can make you look up and feel better. Because for me, when I was in a position to do it for myself, because of the persons I had around me, because of the extent of the belief they had in me, I did it for them.
Right.
You know, I did it for them. And after a while, they said practice makes perfect. So I continuously practice, I continuously practice it. And it became me. It became me, you know. So it was no longer something I had to practice. I can't tell you exactly when I stopped doing it for the persons around me, and I started doing it for myself. I can't. Like, when my husband and my mother, they are the two persons who would be with me when I'm going through whatever. So like in 2017, when I had surgery and I had all the complications, and they had to put, you know, all the different devices, and I was ill, and I used to ask Lord, I said, Lord, because at that time my husband was also dealing with some stress, and I couldn't see myself adding to that stress. I can see myself adding to my mother's stress, you know. So I used to ask God, I said, God, I said, if you have to take me, I said, don't take me now. I said, take me after them, you know, because I don't think that they will be able to cope with all this, because it's just so much. And then I would ask God, I would say, God, I said, give me the strength that I need. I really do draw. He is really a source of my strength. He really is. And so I would ask him, you know, to give me that word that I need. Give me that strength that I need. Give me the energy that I need to lift me out of this situation, to give me that perspective, because perspective is so important, you know. And one of the things that always used to set me in perspective as well, whenever I had serious episodes, and I would have had like 2 near-death experiences, was persons around me in the hospital would die, and I would be alive. And I'm saying, and then the doctors, they would come after these episodes and they would tell me, just imagine doctors telling you that, they would tell me, God really has a purpose for you. You can't say it any other way. God really has a purpose for you. So after you are seeing all this around you, you are hearing all this around you, you are seeing the persons around you, how they are fighting, how they are fighting to help you fight, then the least I could have done for myself was to fight too. I mean, I have some really good friends. I have some really good family members. And now I have my TTEA family. So I think I'm really blessed, you know, having that support, having that positive energy around you. I think that's critical. That makes the world of a difference. Yeah, I hope I was able to help that person.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I just want to add, if you know you are feeling depressed, please seek professional help. Don't just stay there and say, it will get better, it will pass. The fact that you know you are depressed, please seek professional help. I know some people are of the belief, some Christians, that, you know, God will take me through, but sometimes you are getting depressed and you don't know it's a hormonal problem. If you know you are depressed, please seek professional help.
And sometimes laughter is good, Brigid. Laughter is really good, because I mean, there are some of my friends
therapy.
who would call. Yeah, some of my friends who would call, and they would make me laugh. I mean, scandalously, and I'm really good at that. And it works. It works. You know, just to lighten the mood. Even my husband, you know, some of TTA, my TTA family, they would call and they would really have me laughing. Or somebody would just call you out of the blue and say something. They don't know exactly what you're going through, and they would just make you laugh. You know, my sisters are the same way. You know, so it's, you know, it's,
yeah, it does help. So find what works for you. Yeah,
it's what works for you.
Yeah. All right. And just a reminder, because I know I heard you talk about this. For a young person who is feeling disconnected or is really hating themselves because of the disease, What do you tell them?
The first thing I will say is, if you are at that point, I'm trying to make a distinction here between hating yourself and not knowing what you have, and hating yourself and knowing what you have.
Knowing what you have.
Yeah, because if you're hating yourself and not knowing what you have, which was my case, then it means that 50% of your problem, well, I would say of my problem, was not knowing what I have and feeling like as though something was wrong with me, you know? But there was no diagnosis, right? But if you know that you have the disease and you still hate yourself as a result of it, I would say that you need to get some sort of mental health intervention. Definitely.
Let me just clarify. The actual words were dislikes her body due to the disease.
Dislikes her body.
Yeah, so.
Again, because I touched on that, I remember touching on it. But I was only in a position to share what worked for me, right? But I still think having the right set of persons around you, right? And sometimes persons are in an environment that really doesn't nurture the individual, you know. So you really need to have that environment that will really nurture you. You need to have individuals who would be sensitive to what you're going through, right? You for yourself, I would suggest you either one, speak to a mental health professional. Right? And in addition to that, I would also recommend, you know, buying these books, these motivational books, or looking at the motivational videos and stuff. Yeah, you know, because sometimes they do help. One may help you, one strategy alone, but sometimes you may need a combined approach, you know. So I believe this, to me, the safest thing, try the mental health professional. Seek intervention along those lines, and take it from there, you know. And don't look, one of the things I just want to point out is, you don't look for any large progress. You appreciate the baby steps that you make. Yeah, appreciate the baby steps, because remember, it's years you are dealing with whatever you are dealing with. And so it will take years as well for any kind of significant change to be brought about. So just appreciate the baby steps, compliment yourself for the baby steps, and continue along the line of making those baby steps. And eventually they would lead to bigger steps and bigger steps and bigger steps. And you would have a different perspective, you would have a different appreciation for your body, and you may develop a love for your body, and you probably wouldn't even realize when it happened. Yeah, but don't give up. Continue to try, because you deserve that.
Correct. And there are lots of endometriosis groups. Well, I would say Facebook for now. I'm really not on Instagram, so I don't quite know. But there are a lot of groups out there. So there are people you can talk to, but always the professional is the first place you should turn. But reach out to other people who may be going through the same thing that you are. Again, there is strength in numbers, and we are not alone, even if that is how we started out feeling. We know now that we are not alone. So lean on others. Some people are just waiting for you to talk for them to start. So those are all the questions we have for this evening. Abeesha, I want to thank you so much for sharing with us and, for choosing to not be incognito. Your story is inspiring. It reminds us that we need to keep fighting and there is hope. And once we have hope, anything could happen. So I want to encourage you to keep sharing your story, keep championing the cause, and keep leading the TTEA. I don't know, to as far as it can go, because when you started in it's 2012, right?
Yeah.
I was flabbergasted. I was out of the country and I got that email and I was like, wow, at last, I am not the only person in Trinidad and Tobago. So it is making a difference. It might look small to us, but I really saw this year that things are really moving. And even if we make a difference in one person's life, I think that's a great thing. So I want to encourage you to keep fighting. I know things are really hard sometimes because we are women, so we have lives outside of endometriosis. One of the speakers that we have, very funny guy, Dr. Niles, he always says this. We are not endometriosis. We have endometriosis, but we are mothers, we are wives, we are doctors, we are students. So we are things other than endometriosis. So I want to thank all of you for coming here this evening. I will turn you back over to Ms. Hinkson in a minute. But I'm sorry for butchering your name. Siobhan Kidd from London, she's still with us. We are so happy that you are here with us this evening and that you chose to stay. I know it's late where you are. And I just want to reach out to the person that was giving all the advice about the ministry. I feel like you are working in the ministry, but if not, you have a lot of information. If you could reach out to us via email, if you can help us along those lines, that would be really, really great. When you fill out the survey, you can just put a little note there and we can reach out to you via your email. So thank you all for joining us. Abeesha, thank you once again. And I will hand you back over to Ms. Karen Hinkson, your host for this evening.
Thank you so much, Brigid and Abeesha, for that question and answer segment. And thank you to our attendees for posting your questions. We truly appreciate it. So the TTEA would like to thank all those who made tonight's session possible, including our president, Mrs. Abeesha Toussaint-Maximay, Ms. Brigid Winter, the board and executive board members, and you, our viewing audience, who took the time to be with us this afternoon, with a special thank you going out to our attendee from London, who Brigid just mentioned there. Hi, thank you for joining us. We are also reminding persons to complete the feedback survey that would have been placed in the chat. This helps us to know how we're doing and how we can improve to suit the needs of most. Right, so we hope that tonight was another fulfilling session of the Spotlight Endometriosis series, and we also hope that it would have given you more insight into the TTEA's why factor. We aspire to represent and to represent well, and from the interview that we had tonight, you would have garnered where the tenacious spirit of the TTEA emanates from. Look out for more information on the next Spotlight Endometriosis session, which is carded to take place on Saturday, May 1st, 2021. The topic on that session would be La Soufre volcanic eruptions impact the needs of women and girls. And our guests for that session would be Ms. Odelia Thomas, who is the founder of our sister organization out there in St. Vincent called the She Is Lotus. And we also have Ms. Maureen Franklin, the president of the St. Vincent Planned Parenthood Association. So I know St. Vincent is in the news right now with the eruption of the volcano. So this one would be another good one to stay close and tune in to. So look out on our social media sites for more information on that spotlight session. So we want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If we have any gentlemen in the audience, thank you for joining us tonight. We know we went over, we were supposed to end at 8, but you know, when things go good, what happens? We take longer. So have a good night. Thank you. See you in the next session. Take care and God bless.